Hey, what's going on, fam? Back again. See, here's the thing, the American dream. What is the American dream? So, we're going to talk about that today. You know, Carl has his idea of what the American dream is. I have my idea of what the American dream is. And Brandon, of course, has his own idea of what the American dream is. So, B, we're going to start with you and tell us
Do it.
what is the American dream?
I think that's something I'm still trying to figure out for myself. Because if you think back to I think back what I was taught. You look at it from your high school, elementary school, social studies class, and you see those textbooks of the pictures of the finally learning about America, right? And you eventually learn about the American dream was the car outside, a decent sized house, and a white picket fence, and you saw the little picture of the caricature family. So that's what I was taught, right? But that was a white family, and they had a head start and all those other things in the background which they didn't tell you, and dad had money from hit back there, and there was land established and all that, but that eventually led up to that family right there having the American dream. So growing up, younger age, I thought that was the American dream, but now I see it now. What is that for me? I think that's something I'm building right now because, again, if you compare myself to that makeshift family in the picture, I didn't have that same start or background of that gentleman in the picture with the family is. I'm building that a different way. I didn't have the head start, so I'm building that brick by brick. And who knows, it'll evolve over time, but I think it's just a growing process of what I'm doing as a black man in this country.
So, when you saw coming up as a child and you saw the American dream, did you think that it was for you? Did you see yourself being able to attain the wife, the house, the white picket fence, the whole nuclear family? Did you see yourself in that picture?
With some naive sunglasses on, yeah. Yeah, some rosy-eyed, bright, bushy sunglasses, yeah, I did for sure. But reality kicks in and you get a little older and you start to see how life goes. You start to see about this word called inflation and a lot of other things. And then you see how relationships start to have these different dynamics. And then when are you gonna have a kid? And when are you gonna have a family? When you gonna buy a house? So all these little
So,
scenarios.
okay, but coming up, you grew up in a two-parent
Mhm.
household, siblings,
Yep.
the house. So, did you think that your parents had attained the quote unquote American dream?
Through those sunglasses, yeah. Cause we had 2 parents, 2 kids, car, house, not a white picket fence, but it was still a fence and a house and a nice sized house. So, yeah, in my eyes, I thought, well, I didn't even think of it that way. I just thought we were good, that was
You
what was
say we were
supposed
good.
because I'm not gonna say we live in the American dream. I just thought we had what we was supposed to have, which in turn is that American dream. But, again, now I'm coming into it almost 30, like, oh, okay. It's a little more to it than that, character picture you saw in the textbook. So I think it's a learning curve.
Mm.
And it's going to be different from generation to generation to generation because, again, like I was saying, there's all these variables. How much was a house when my parents bought it versus how much is that same house when I go buy it?
So does the ideal stay the same though if we're going from generation to generation?
Essentially, yes. It's just the
Okay.
influencing factors change, right?
Okay. Um, Carl, so what is the American dream to you?
So, to Brandon's point, and what you said kind of triggered me a little bit. I thought the American, the household with because it was the same thing. I grew up in a two-parent household with siblings, and house wasn't big, but it was nice. And I thought that's what we were supposed to have. I mean, my parents went to work, they paid bills. I mean, you have a place to stay for your family. Okay, so
Bingo.
I never thought of it as the American dream. I don't know if I had an idea of what I thought the American dream was. I know what I wanted. Um, I wanted to have, when I got older, a bigger house and a nicer car. And, those are the
Okay.
type of things that I'm like, okay, well, if this is baseline, then I want to be here.
Mhm.
And again, I don't know if I thought of it as, an American dream. But to your point again, as you get older, and you recognize your place in this society, as a black man, I think of the American dream as freedom. And
Mm.
I'm going to go back to, like, for the majority of black people in this country come from a lineage of slavery, whether people want to acknowledge it or not. And that's a whole nother show. But in that lineage of slavery, their dream was to be free.
Yep.
Coming out of slavery,
Priority number one.
that was the priority number one. It was, did I want a house? Did I want a picket fence? I want to be free.
Yep.
So that's number one. Number two, we were made promises of, and everybody's heard the thing, and if you go up and research the Freedmen's Bureau, you'll see the entirety of it, but the 40 acres and a mule thing.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like, okay, the next step was to have your own land and the ability to make money for yourself. So this is what black people were looking for. So one, I'm free. Two, I can make my own money and kind of create your own destiny.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that even now, over 100 years later, we're still trying to have that model. If we can be free from discrimination, free from housing discrimination, free from police brutality, free from not being hired even though you're qualified. All of that, if you can be free from that and have the ability to determine my own income, determine my own place to stay, my own spot in the society, I think that's the American dream for black people, because we still haven't got that as far as I'm concerned.
And you bring up us, and I don't think that the American, quote unquote, the American dream was anything that was meant for us. I mean, I think the big house, kids, white picket fence, that's for white America. For us, I think one of the things too, I look at when you talk about the American dream is externally, because we have folks outside of the United States that want to come here.
Yep.
Because we are, quote unquote, supposed to be the greatest country in the world. And I use those quotes. Yes. Anyway, but, they want to come here because this is supposed to be the land of opportunity that will afford anyone, the ability to attain their goals through
hard work. I like that. I knew, yeah, that's what I'm talking
and perseverance. But yet we haven't gotten any of that. When you talk about opportunity, I mean, Carl, to your point, the man has had his foot on the back of our neck for generations. We know it's not for us. But at the same time, I think, going back historically, and I know each of us has some historical points on that. I'll start with mine. I found that the phrase was actually coined back in 1931. A gentleman by the name of James Truslow Adams wrote a book called The Epic of America. And he had a quote in there where it says, not a dream of motor cars and high wages merely, but a dream of a social order in which each man and woman are able to attain to the fullest stature of which they are innately capable, and be recognized by others for what they are, regardless of the fortuitous circumstances of birth or position. And nowhere in there is he talking about us. So you think about, the American dream. I think the people that believe in the American dream, they don't even look like us. Because, I mean, when was the last time you talked to one of your colleagues, coworkers, family, friends, and man, the American dream? I think we done attained it.
Yeah, I mean, I had conversations like, I think we doing all right, but I don't think, that's a.
don't even think that's in my lexicon, the
Yeah.
American dream.
But it's not.
It's a
But
good one.
some people, and I think people that, and these are people that don't have a historical perspective past their childhood, really.
Mhm.
Of we're doing all right. I mean, we all know people, and I'm sure that come from dire circumstances, who are adults now, who are doing all right for themselves,
Mhm.
and they can say, I can look back on through my hard work, I've made something of myself. So therefore, and I hate this when people say it, if I can do it, anybody can do it. No,
Yeah.
that's not true, because everyone has a unique set of circumstances.
Mhm.
So for people to say that, I can obtain and anybody can obtain the American dream, even immigrants have a unique set of circumstances.
Agreed.
They're not the same as they come from a different mindset. One, they also come into a situation where they are given things once they immigrate legally to
There you
this
go.
country.
Help that we are not given.
Are not given, and have been historically denied, and are now the things that we were given, such as affirmative action programs and diversity hires. They're trying to roll all that back, because what happens is they say, okay, we know you've just been discriminated against, so here's a leg up. Now
Y'all here. Y'all even.
You've got the leg up. Okay, the window is closing because you should have taken advantage of it. Now we're going to close that window again.
Mhm.
Where as an immigrant, that window is always open.
True.
So they're going to be different, set of circumstances. So when I hear immigrants in broken English try to talk about, you did not understand, you have all the advantages and you haven't taken it. So
I love it.
so when you don't come at me like that, because you have a whole nother set of issues, or we have a whole nother set of issues that you
Yeah.
know nothing about.
And to your point, I think I think that's in a different American dream too. So I think that's a whole nother slice of cake, because that American dream is, I want to get over here and start a business or
But it's
work.
They want, go ahead.
it's the American dream
Yeah.
as they see it,
Exactly.
which
So, which
is
is-
a byproduct of the white American dream. Because I'm just gonna put it out there, the American dream, it's racist. The American dream is racist because we a damn racist country.
It's inherent. The country is inherently
So
racist.
how can you say that this is the greatest country in the world when you continue to disenfranchise us? You continue to marginalize us.
Mhm.
So there is no way that you'll ever get me to sit back and say, yeah, the American dream, that's for me, because it's not.
So I'm going to jump in here when you talk about that. The whole white picket fence and house and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
After World War II, this country was in a big economic boom. So they had the baby boomer generation,
Yeah, you're looking like what, Industrial Revolution?
just everything happened. All the soldiers
It's
that came
great.
back from war were getting, they had, excuse me, we were really, like you said, the plants were hiring. We were really building things for the world, because we were rebuilding the world.
Yeah.
That we destroyed during the war. So okay, cool. I mean, not cool, but
That part goes under the rug. That part doesn't count.
Hey man, I don't
needed those
I don't
steel
pick and
mills
choose.
anyway.
It is what it is. So in that time, that's when you saw the growth of suburban America.
Yeah.
Soldiers were coming back. They were building houses literally with white picket fences. And there was also the birth of the Federal Housing Administration. The Federal Housing Administration, set up by the U.S. government, would not insure their home loans in areas that were not all white areas. So that created redlining. So if there were black people in that area, who also black soldiers fought in the war, so they too were, really in theory, on paper, were able to apply for these loans as well.
True.
So we're going to keep them in this area, but all the white people, we can create a whole nother neighborhood, whole nother city, whole nother town based on that. So here we are, the American dream. Yeah, I can buy a house in the same hood that I left before I went and got my leg blown off, but I can, I can't move over here. And this is not even in necessarily in the suburbia. This happened in the city of Detroit. It happened in all Chicago. It happened in all these major cities where you created areas that were elite areas for white people and remain ghettos for black people.
And to your point, Carl, with the white areas, those were the advent of subdivisions.
Absolutely.
Bingo.
So they had houses built, all the same type of houses in the area, but you or I, we couldn't get into them.
Mhm.
And even when you think about how this country has been, you just proved my point. This is a racist country, and we are still racist. Racism, as far as I'm concerned, is embedded in every facet of life here in the United States. I can't speak for other countries, but I think when we talk about the American dream, you're talking about climbing the ladder and opportunity. We've got glass ceilings as African Americans. How much opportunity can I have? We've got a few people that have quote unquote made it, but even then, they ain't had that Negro reality check yet, and it's coming.
And one thing I want to say here, I don't want people to think, and this is what a lot of white supremacists will say, and then black people will start co-opting this. You're using racism as an excuse. It's not an excuse.
Yeah, no, it's not.
It's a damn fact of
It's
life.
it's a fact of life. We have achieved and progressed in spite of.
There you go.
So don't say
X, Y,
that,
and Z. Yep.
it's not, it's almost saying like, if you're walking through quicksand, if you can get to the other side of where the quicksand is, the quicksand did not exist. It still existed.
Yeah.
I made my way through it and I'm continuing to go, but I can't say, well, it wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't, it didn't really exist. And, you're making an excuse.
You didn't walk through the quicksand. Yeah. You walked over here.
You walked around it and it took you so long.
But we still over here.
Right. Why did it take you so long? Walking through quicksand, it's not that. So don't, and like I said, a lot of white people will say that. And then you've got some, coons that will jump on the bandwagon and say, yeah, I made it. What did you do? Again, everybody has a unique set of circumstances. And don't say that this doesn't exist.
Oh, yeah,
just say you can do it in spite of. So I want to throw that in there before anybody starts jumping out.
And they'll never use that as a caveat to quote unquote the American dream. I think the American dream, as it is put out today, to me, is more of a marketing strategy than it is an ideal. Because again, if you're talking about the American dream, you're not including us. And for people that are in other countries, they come over, and now some of the immigrants have been Americanized to the point where they believe in this foolishness. So they're telling people back home, hey, come on over here. You can do it. I did it. And then they come over and they build their communities and they build themselves up. And now, because white America is looking down on certain groups, then they start looking down on certain groups.
Well, immigrant groups have been allowed to stay in their communities.
Yeah, where there's been a lack of displacement or
exactly
other external factors that kind of.
Because again, in the 1950s, when we weren't allowed to move into white areas due to the FHA loans, and we stayed in our own black areas, again in the 1950s, we had urban renewal. So we had highways built right through black communities. So now you're breaking up the community we have.
They gave y'all the housing developments like Cabrini Green and the Brewsters.
So you built projects which were supposed to be short-term housing.
Temporary
housing, transitional housing for you. Okay, we're going to put you here until you can afford to buy a home. But now again, because we only can buy in certain areas, the inventory is only going to be at a certain level. So we can't go certain places. So guess what? You end up staying in the projects.
And that continued that cycle of poverty.
Absolutely. So and they weren't built to be long-term housing. So and you can see the issues that they would have with plumbing and electrical and so on and so forth. And then, like you said, crime breaks in, and then everything was set up for us to be contained. So when you have an immigrant community, and I don't care if it's Arab American or Chinese or whatever, they stay within their community and they can build within their community. Nobody's taking their housing. Nobody's running highways through it. So they can always, they can build it. So again, they say, well, why can't you do that? We did it. And it was broken up.
Yeah,
So
y'all
Yeah,
burned
what had
up Black Wall
happened
Street.
was
yeah, it's like,
Rosewood, you know.
and okay, Tulsa. Yes, they burned down Tulsa, Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street was rebuilt after it was burned down. And then guess what? They put a highway through it.
Oh yeah, technically never came back.
So it's like, you can't give me your example as an immigrant
Yeah.
without and not take into consideration things that we've done and continue to do. Like I said, I don't want to say that we're continuing to do this.
Despite
It, again, you have urban areas. I mean, Detroit, New York, Chicago, and I'm sure, Atlanta. You've got areas where there are a lot of Black businesses. We're trying to, have our homes rebuilt, so to speak, and kind of build that sense of community again. But when you keep snatching the rug out or moving the marker, 100 yards down the road, there's a so our American dream is not the same.
Yeah, I think it's split, right? Because you have, think of it, I would say Caucasian, white. There's a white American dream, right? Picket fence, family, car, kids, dog, bam. You have the immigrant. I came over here, got X, Y, and Z to establish myself. Or, there's the built from the ground up without disruption. And then there's our situation. We were here along with the Caucasians or English, or however you want to say, we were with them.
we didn't ask to come over
Exactly.
here, but
So, again, we didn't come over here and build. We were
building,
kidnapped to bring free labor. Well, we were kidnapped, but to bring free labor in to push the white American dream ahead. So I don't know how much of a negative factor you want to place that down, but when I look at it, I feel like there's a white-based American dream, then there's an immigrant-based American dream, because through immigration, that's the act of wanting to come over here, right? You want to come to America to do X, Y, and Z.
But there's, again, that immigrant American dream is a byproduct of the
So
white
now
American
with
dream.
us,
We don't
there
have one.
technically isn't one. Yeah, because we just got here on the ship and they gave us a hammer and said, "Get to work, boy."
And to Carl's point, what we're doing is we taking pieces from here, we taking pieces from there, and just trying to make it work. So, okay, if we were to have the African American dream, to Carl's point, what would you put in that African American dream, B?
Well, I'll take what Carl had as the building blocks. I think his generational thing is gonna move up and up and up. So you got the freedom, you want housing, you want equal rights, the ability to vote, the ability to have a job, to have a bank account. So I think you're just gonna segue and just step your way up to that. And now I think we're looking at a point we want to be just, and I don't even know how long that takes with the steps and ladders and generations, years of that. But now we're looking at how can we get on the equivalent playing field with our counterparts that have had how many hundreds of years of a head start? And can you even achieve that? Because we all know the moniker that we have as a Black man or Black woman. You got to work twice as hard to get up with your white counterparts.
To get half as much.
So even with that being said, are you really equating yourself or catching up? Because that's been in our generation, that's been in my parents' generation, that's been in your parents' generation. We're always going to be doing that.
But see, and I think too, it takes us to really, take a look in the mirror and see, ourselves for who we really are. Because, we were talking before, unfortunately, our community is not a unified community.
Agreed.
And I think it begins there. Of course, we would love to have, quote unquote, the African American dream, but who's going to promote it? We can say everything that, we need to say, but at the same time, I think there have to be, people that are at a certain level to promote it. We all are in agreement that it has to be rooted in freedom, free of racism, encompass economic stability, free from discrimination and just an opportunity. Because that's my thing. Give us a fair opportunity. We don't have that. And it's almost as if, when we were coming up, Carl, Nobody told us we had to go to college and get a degree, but we figured, okay, that's going to help us.
hmm
You know, you get one degree, oh, well, you need to get another one. You get another degree, oh, wait a minute. Now I'm still behind the 8 ball because
Yeah,
my
and
white counterpart who doesn't even have a degree is still making more money than me.
then too, you got, I don't want to be, it's a little humorous, but it's also what you're going to school for, because you always hear the joke about you going for basket weaving,
Mhm.
and then
GS.
10 years later, what the heck can you do, or what are you doing? You struggling. Meanwhile, I'll take my example. I went STEM. When I looked at my classes, I was the only one that had. Well, there was some brown. They were Middle
Indian.
No,
Eastern.
no, 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 that don't
Yeah,
count.
so it
They
doesn't
were
count.
brown, but that
But
don't count. Actually, they're
yeah,
probably darker than you, but that's okay.
yeah.
Yes.
So again, I was looking around, and then there was the, oh man, I'm about to, got a basketball class at 2:00, and I said, oh, okay. So it was also, I think that's an issue too. We weren't even trying, to get that school. Now there were a couple that went for the
But
stuff
when
in
you talk
school.
about stuff like that, though, B, I mean, I think that's because we haven't been introduced to a lot of that
Yeah,
coming up.
exactly.
You know,
Yep.
you got sports, you got music. That's pretty much it. That's your ticket. So
Yeah.
you didn't have engineers coming into the hood, things like that. So I
True.
think that we looked at it and said, okay, this is my ticket out. This is what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
But the world is so much bigger than that.
Yes.
And I think even now what we can do, and we've talked about this before, in your area, for instance, mentorship programs. The STEM
Mhm.
program is a wonderful thing, but kids don't want to get involved, partly because, well, African American kids, as I see it, they see it as it's hard. I can't do
Oh
that.
Mhm.
yeah, it's
It's
hard.
it's easier for me to go dribble this basketball, catch that football. I don't
Calculus
want
is
to do
not
that.
fun.
Well, exactly. But I think that ultimately you have to look at the big picture, and
Mhm.
it will take people that are in these areas to come back and say, hey, little Johnny, Trayvante, you can do it because you can. But we got to build into this African American dream, man, because
But let me
what else do we have, quite
pose
honestly?
a question, because I feel it's hard to get us all on one accord. Because I hear what you're saying. There's this African American dream. We get ourselves together, we build community, report amongst ourselves. But there's also the thing of, well, what you doing too good, I'm not going to tell you.
Okay.
And you
Oh,
got a lot of gatekeeping. So what about that? I
Let
think
me
we
jump
shoot
in because I
ourselves.
wanted to circle back to what Eugene said. So this is a perfect segue about being unified. We can't be unified until we agree that there's a problem.
Hmm.
If you and I can't agree that today is Saturday, we can't really go forward because there's no dialogue to be had. Now we can say whether it's a good Saturday or a bad Saturday, we can have that discussion.
Yeah. You got a
But
basis.
but
at
if we
least.
can't have a baseline that there's a problem, so for blacks in America, which is why I said certain coons that are out there, if we can't agree that this is a racist society and we've been put behind the 8 ball and we're lagging behind and we need to have some processes in place for us to catch up. If we can't have that baseline agreement, then there's no talking to us. Now,
So
how
that's the
we achieve
reality.
it,
That's the reality
that's
right
the
there.
reality right now. How we achieve it is the discussion. Some people might say, well, we just got to integrate into, the greater society. Some people might say, well, we got to build our own. Those are discussions we can have. But until we agree that there's a problem,
I don't see that.
and I don't see that happening either.
Because somebody will say, it's just fine.
Exactly. So that's the unification that has to happen.
but even if somebody is saying it's just fine, I believe innately they know that it's not.
Well,
So what has gotten you to the point where you are
But-
afraid and your own cowardice
Well, you said it. That's it.
I also
doesn't
think it's
allow you to speak the truth?
That's it.
ignorance is bliss type of thing too.
No, no.
I made it, so I'm hey,
No, they're scared.
I'm not gonna.
It's cowardice and they're scared. That's what I think. They put that face on. I made it, and it don't. What you are is you're afraid because you've seen. Talk about dreams. What's the Black American dream? Every year in January, we hear, "Oh, Dr. King's dream, Dr. King's dream that we all come together and yada yada yada." Well, Dr. King was already saying, yeah, my dream, I can see right now. That's what y'all keep. This when he was alive. He was alive saying this. Yeah, I've been preaching this integration, but guess what? I
Ain't
don't
looking
see
so
this
hot.
working. I'm
Not, what do you say?
trying.
Not in my
I
lifetime.
don't see this working. So here you go, still talking about Dr. King's dream, and you co-opted, like I said, in January. Because I don't hear a lot of black people saying it. We don't, you hear more white people saying Dr. King's dream, because again, that's not our burden. We're not the ones that are keeping us down. It's not.
Yeah.
So it's not our burden to say we all have to come together. And I can't make you like me. I can't make you even just work with me or see me as an equal or a peer. That's not my burden, which is
Mhm.
what Dr. King said again when he was alive.
Yeah, that
So
wasn't
now,
yesterday.
so now when you kill him, somebody who stood for peace and all, you hear all this stuff, like I said, every year he stood for peace, but you killed him in violence. So now if I say, well, we need to stand up and do it, nah, because I might get killed too. So it's better for me to say, well, I think everything's okay. And it's cowardice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you end up acquiescing to, white America and what they want. I think that we have to realize that, again, being in a racist society, there are certain things that are always going to be there.
Yeah.
But Carl, I mean, to your point, we as a people, there are different routes that we can go to unification, and I feel bad because I do feel like the apex of the civil rights movement and our, projection was when Dr. King was here.
Mhm.
Ever since he was killed, we've been going downhill.
And that's by design.
Yeah, and no amount of marginal success that some black people have
Mhm.
is going to erase the fact that, we still aren't included in, quote unquote, the American dream.
What Jay-Z say? Even if you in the bins or something like that.
See, be quoting Jay-Z, so we go.
As you were saying.
No,
You,
I mean,
you're still, I get. Well,
As you were
that was
saying.
actually Kanye West.
So
But-
do
Yeah, you
you
know.
think though, B, that we can move forward with being able to not only produce the African American dream, but to see it through to fruition? What would it take for your generation to see this happen?
Ugh. I feel like we're all kind of siloed in that we're all making our own dream amongst ourselves in our groups.
In your generation or just as a whole?
I'll speak for my generation. I think we're all, and there might be some groups siloed together, but how you were coming back to saying us all unify, I don't see that happening. Because again, you've got the group that is displaced already. So far down, you're going to need a hand to pick me up. And there's going to be a group that will help them. So that group can get help, and I'm pulling up somebody else up. Then you're going to have a group way on the other side like, what you mean? I done made the dream. I got my house in the suburbs and my Cadillac outside and my car. It's fine. So I feel like you're going to have groups over here, over there, over there, over there. And there might even be group. I'm about to leave this country because, you see a lot of people in my generation, they realize like, oh, it's expensive over here. Let me go do something like move to Bali. And I'm living in Bali for half what I was paying for rent in California. So then you got that group over here too that is leaving or going to different countries because, like I was saying, inflation earlier. If you're paying, I don't know, $2,000 for rent, you can go to some country you find beautiful, spend half and kind of live a semi-luxurious life. You're going to get out of here and take it. So I don't think there's going to be a unified African American dream. I feel like we're going to be chasing our own dreams amongst ourselves or the group that we want to chase that dream with.
So go ahead,
No,
Carl.
here's my, not that I disagree with what you're saying, but here's my issue, or I guess it might be even a pushback. You still have immigrants that are breaking their necks to get to this country.
Yeah, for sure.
But then at the same time, like you said, you do have a group of African Americans who are leaving the country.
Mhm.
So, like Gene is saying, the immigrant groups are still taking part of the American dream because they're still trying to get here. And some of them are doing well. I mean, they're living better than they were.
Yeah.
But why are we, who were born and raised here, going the
Again, it's
opposite direction?
again, this like I was saying earlier, there's different ones. We were
and I know-
dragged over here.
Okay, but that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We
You-
were dragged over, but it wasn't me. It wasn't you.
It's still
It wasn't
that
even our
origin
parents.
point though.
But we've been here for at least, I'll say 5 or 6 generations
Mhm.
outside of slavery.
Yeah.
So you've got people that are coming fresh over here that are
Again,
dying to get here. So when they see us and they say, well, why are you unhappy? You've been here for years.
mhm.
I'm coming in and I'm doing well. So it's not,
Well,
so
again, I
it kind of
think-
proves the point of
Yeah.
the American dream is not for us.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. It's the whole immigration getting over here context. That's the whole thing that I'm looking at. Again, the whites that came over, they wanted to get away from Britain. They didn't want taxation without representation. I don't want to pay for my tea. I could go on and on about that.
Mhm.
Look at Ukraine. I wouldn't want to be over there right now. I'm in NATO. Let me come over to America. Take North South Korea. You can't even go to North Korea, but they want to get the heck out of there because you know who.
But
Again,
but why here?
because guess what?
There's
There's
a whole lot
treaties.
of other countries.
Yes, true, but again, I know there's a billion different statuses and processes with immigration. Just I don't know the full ins and outs, but I believe it's been Ellis Island is always just the origin point for immigration. It's always been that way,
For
but remember,
European immigration.
and other, but us, we never had. Well, there are some people from Africa that come over, but when you're looking at African Americans, there was never an origin point to immigrate over here. We were
No, 'cause
still.
We didn't immigrate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
wasn't
we were
immigrating.
bussed via ship unwillingly over
Yeah.
here. So I always think when you look at that American dream from an immigrant from us, I look at that origin point is whereas, I was, I don't know, shining shoes in whatever country because the war tore it down and I came over here and got a shop and built it up.
How'd you get a shop?
I don't know that point, but he worked in
Yeah,
a
you
restaurant and got the shop.
You got a
Again,
loan.
again, you came over here from war-torn
Wherever.
wherever
Yeah.
and got a shop.
Inside of 10 years, you making money.
I've been here for generations and can't get a loan to rent a shop.
Bingo.
So how is I need people to understand that there's
Yeah,
that's why
what
it
I'm
doesn't
saying.
equate.
Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
big disconnect
It does-
between bang, bang, boom.
Exactly. I mean, you have people like you said, Eugene. Inside of 10 years, they've built these crazy, successful businesses. Not to say that Black people don't have business acumen. Not to say that It's like there's a lot of things that the playing field. We keep saying the playing field is not equal.
Yeah, thus you got to work. That's what the whole thing. We have to work twice as hard to even somewhat level that playing field.
Carl, you brought up an interesting point, and I don't want to miss that. European immigrants. Because when we talk about immigrants, we got to make sure they're the cream of the crop. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Because we all know in this political season right now, Mexico, try it if you want to. You ain't coming over here. And with the new administration that's coming in, oh no, they don't want y'all. They want Europeans. They want people from smart countries, so to speak.
I challenge that one.
Blonde hair, blue eyes.
They'll take them.
I challenge that.
But here's the thing, though. If you come over, you have to, and you come over with no issues, they want you to be bringing something to the
Yeah,
table.
fair.
And I think that when we look at, the disparity there, we can't sit back and number one, allow it. But again, it's going to take more than just the three of us saying, hey, we need to move forward. Let's come together as a people. That's why it pains me to see, celebrities and athletes and people that have quote unquote made it think that there's nothing wrong here. We don't have any issues in America. And I'm saying to myself, well, okay, what lens are you looking at? Because if you lose that contract that you got, you're gonna be in the same boat I'm in.
Because they've been told the American dream is to have financial freedom. And
True,
that
that's a big
and that's they've been told that's it.
yeah.
Athletes, entertainers, if they were to speak out on social issues, you see how they get
Yeah, you fumbled.
attacked.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
They
Oh,
get
yeah.
attacked immediately. Like, we don't want to hear what you have to say. Just play basketball, or just, play your
What was
character
the
in the
shut up
show
and
or
dribble?
whatever. Shut up, right?
But
So
even going back as far as Chris Jackson, played for the
absolutely,
Denver Nuggets.
Mahmoud Abdul Rauf.
Exactly. Converted to Islam, became a Muslim. One of the greatest shooters of all. I mean, Chris had handles. Chris had it all. Changed his name, converted. We know what happened. He was out the league.
And he didn't do anything. Okay, and I'm gonna go to this point too real quick.
Mhm.
So, what really got him put out of the NBA or blackballed
Yeah, there you
was
go.
part of his religion. He did not stand for the national anthem.
He prayed during it though.
But he did not stand.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you
He did not
disrespected the
comply.
flag.
That's what it was.
Mhm.
And he had been doing it for a while until one reporter brought it up, and it became a whole national story. Now, a local DJ, this is back in the day, and again, we know how old we are. Local DJ was talking about it, and he was like, call in and say how you feel about it, and so on and so forth. So I called in, and I said, I support him because this is a country, land of the free, home of the brave. You can do what you want to do.
Mhm.
If he doesn't want to stand based on his religious background, he shouldn't be made to stand. The DJ went off on me. Well, then you don't need to be here if you can't stand for the national anthem. And this is a black man. So fast forward, I knew what was going to happen to Colin Kaepernick
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because it had
that was
already been done.
predictable. Yeah.
It's predictable. And it was even 10 times worse when you've got the media, social media, and at the time, the president of the United States talking about it.
Yep.
So these are things that it's like, when you talk about unity, we can't even agree. Again, we cannot agree on there's a problem.
Yeah, I think we're all in those silos.
Absolutely.
Different ones, of course, but
And that's the most heinous thing to me, because if anybody else, if it was a Ukrainian immigrant who said, well, I'm not going to stand because the war in Ukraine, they would just, the war in
His
Ukraine.
people would stand behind him
They
like
would
never before.
Never before. They would be Ukrainian flag. They probably slap them on the back of helmets. They do all kind of stuff. We stand for Ukraine. We stand for. But when it's one of us who is an American citizen, born and raised,
yep.
and we're supposed to have these freedoms, it's different. See, that's the kind of stuff that it's like, it's so obvious to people. It's so obvious to me, I should say.
Yeah, it
It
is.
should be obvious
It
to
is.
everyone.
I think so. It is.
And it's not. And and if it is obvious, they're cowards. They'd rather just kowtow and go along to get along.
I'm gonna go with the cowards, because that, to me, it if you can't, as Malcolm X said, if you don't stand for anything, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Mhm.
I think that a lot of our quote unquote leaders today is a money grab.
Oh, for
I
sure.
can't think of any substantial leader in our community that has the balls to stand up and say, okay, here it is. Let's get this thing going. We're supposed to be in the greatest country in the world, yet we can't figure out how to stop homelessness. We could do that if we wanted to.
They could do it
Of
tomorrow.
course.
Exactly.
You could spend the
You know-
military defense budget and everyone could.
Not even the whole budget.
Well, yeah.
Probably a tenth of it.
But people outside of the country, outside of the immigrants trying to get over here, other countries look at us as being lazy, greedy, arrogant. And can you say that they're wrong?
I was gonna say, and
I-
you keep going.
I
You
mean-
keep going. I understand wrong what you're
I
saying.
say-
I was like, go
You know,
ahead.
right.
I think that ultimately, though, man, we got to focus on being inclusive, and while we may never see it in our lifetime, ultimately that's what it's going to take, in order for us to see some measure of equality, especially as African Americans, outside of unity, there's a lot of work to be done.
And that's where I look at it to just pose a question out is that's a huge mountain to cross, and how many lifetimes from now, if will that even happen?
Hell, you got to start somewhere.
And
Well,
that's where I pose a thing because now just after this, I look at I don't have a quote unquote American dream. I have a dream for my life and my subset family, future family around me. Because there is no white picket fence for me. There is no, our grandpa had the land from, Mississippi and the plantation that we just got. There was none of that. So I'm looking at it as, this is where I am. I got the hard work ethic, whatever that Mr. Slobodan Popovich had when he brought over here. But it's still the difference, I don't see myself having the American dream, but I'm in here in America. You're gonna make some sort of dream for myself and those around me.
but it can it. This is the thing that we don't really understand. It can happen. It can happen tomorrow if there were changes made. I look at when opioids started affecting white people.
Oh, yep.
You know, drug addiction has been an issue in the black community since the 40s.
Mhm.
It went from heroin to crack cocaine to now I guess it's back to heroin,
Mhm.
and then everything in between. It's
Yeah.
Ravaged our communities, broken up families, put people in jail, killed people.
And to poke it, ask a question. Have you ever seen a documentary about African Americans and opioid usage?
No.
But there are several documentaries, movies, television shows, all sorts of stuff showing the impacts that it had on white people, communities, villages, whatever. Just want to
Well, hell,
And
just
throw
look
that
at the
out there.
court cases and the settlements, the
That's my point.
billion-dollar settlements
That's my
that
point.
these pharmaceutical companies have had to pay out.
Laws got enacted immediately.
Yes.
Settlements happened immediately
Mhm.
to restrict prosecute doctors, restrict the manufacturing, and going after the pharmaceutical. Those things happen immediately.
Mhm.
So when you talk about correcting the wrongs that have happened to black people, and I'll say reparations.
Sure.
Reparation doesn't necessarily have to be a check.
Mhm.
Reparations can be tax abatements. Reparations can be free education. Reparations can be access to capital,
Interest-free loans.
interest-free loans, forgiving of student loans.
Mhm.
All of those things can be reparations to the black community. If you can do any and all of those things tomorrow. And if that was to happen, what would happen to ours? A lot of things would have equal playing, reinstatement of DEI, reinstatement of affirmative action, until we see ourselves represented proportionally in all areas of society. I'm not saying that everybody's going to be a black CEO of all these companies,
Fair.
but if we are 13% of the population, 13% of the board of directors of major corporations should be black. I mean, that's just the way it should be. If you did those things and ensured those things to happen, that could be done legislatively tomorrow. So when we keep saying, well, it's not going to be in our lifetime, it's not going to be in that, we can't keep waiting for people to die off, because it's not like it's going to be like, well, all the racists are dead, so now we can start building a harmonious society.
We's free, boss.
No, the same trauma that we pass down from generation to generation, they pass down the same racism.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way that can be corrected, and we saw it, that's why legislation was passed in the first place, you got to be made to do it. And if you are made to do it, then let's see what it looks like then. And so I don't subscribe to, well, it's not going to happen in our lifetime. I mean, and it could, and that's very, if it doesn't, it's not because of, some kind of external factor. It is what it is.
Yeah, but I look at the kind of stark dark reality too is you say bring back DEI. there's a movement going on right now that says DEI must die.
Exactly. But that's what I'm
So
saying.
it's
But
like you're always combating something. So it's
you're
like
combating
that
racism.
list. Wonderful. I want that list. Give my student loans. Give me a couple $100,000 for reparations. Perfect. But it's also I'm like these reparations, this list. I'm not getting that.
When
I
you
don't see
s-
my
when
grandkids
Yeah,
getting
okay,
that.
but we have to understand why we're not. And that's why I
Mhm.
said, that's why I brought up the opioid example. Because a lot of people say, I'm hooked on drugs, I'm gonna be hooked on drugs, and that's gonna be my reality. No, a lot of them people are off drugs now. They've been to rehabilitation, paid for
True.
by the
Yep.
government, and they got a check.
I think when we talk about reparations, though, because it's always been connected to money, the
Mhm.
narrative has been, excuse my language, you get these niggas some money, then guess what? All they gonna do is spend it on this. All they gonna do is spend it on that. They still think that we are so uneducated. We are so uncouth
Yeah,
that
it's
we
like the
wouldn't
Dave
know what to
Chappelle
do.
skit.
Yeah, we wouldn't
Yep.
know what to do with
And
$10,000 or $100,000.
and it's funny. The Dave Chappelle skit is funny,
Mm-hmm.
and
That's
what
what
you're
they think.
saying is true.
Yep.
But I push back by saying it's not. It still wouldn't hurt you, because
Yeah,
if
it
you
wouldn't.
do give me $100,000, who am I gonna spend it with?
You.
You're really
It's going
scared.
back.
You're really scared that I'm gonna take that $100,000 and build myself my freedom.
Oh yeah.
Because if I took it and ran right back to the Cadillac dealership, or now, excuse me, bought a Tesla truck,
Oh Lord.
it's not hurting. It's not gonna hurt you. It helps you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a boost of the economy. You're scared that I'm gonna do something different with it.
And that's just it, because that is one of the things that holds us back, because we are afraid that if we go out and we do something that's outside of the box, then the man over here is going to see it and he say,
They
you
gonna
know
say,
what?
Wait a minute. What you
Yeah,
doing?
I got to pull you
Too
back.
much dip on your chip, buddy.
Absolutely.
And I think that, we as a people, we have to do a better job at, number one, stop being so damn scared. I mean, what the hell are you afraid of? And we've talked about fear before. You don't know what you can do until you step out there.
Yeah.
Fear is something that's good for you if you can overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we all sit back on the porch, I ain't going out there, man. That dog too big. Well, guess what? If I get off the porch and I run and that dog ain't catching me, then guess what? Oh, he did it. Now one person's done. Now the next person might see if they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I think it's going to take some extraordinary circumstances for us to get to the point where we can say, okay, he did it, I can do it. Instead of looking at him saying, okay, he did it. And then once I do it, I'm saying, oh, well, I did it. You figure out how to do it.
Well, if he did it, and this is where we are. He ran off the porch. The dog actually bit him. Even if he didn't die, the dog bit him.
I ain't gonna let the dog bite me.
I'm not gonna let the dog bite me.
I learned
So
my
I'm
lesson.
gonna sit on the porch.
And I'm gonna tell everybody behind me, you better not run off the porch.
There's a dog gonna bite
The
you.
dog is gonna bite you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we didn't say this particular person, he didn't zigzag, he just ran straight.
And he gone.
He just, and look, and the dog bit him, and he just said, ow, and kept going. But I'm so scared that he's gonna bite me, and what could happen to me next? He might really tear me up. So I'm gonna make sure that everybody behind me doesn't do it either. And they can say, now, somebody behind you is gonna run off the porch.
Yep.
But it's not gonna be everybody.
Nope.
And that's where we are. People are so afraid of what has happened, and nobody wants to really internalize this, but they're afraid of what has happened historically.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about, Black leaders from the 1960s and civil rights leaders. They were destroyed.
Yeah,
either killed. A lot of, the Black Panthers ended up on drugs. They ended up locked up. They ended up dead. All of this, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, murder, everything happened where it was like, we're going to show you what happens if you try to step outside this box.
And the crazy part about that too is if you look at, whether it was Dr. King, Malcolm X, or the Black Panthers for that, there are still ideals that they created that we're using today.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Black Panther, community schooling. Oh,
free
it's
lunch
not,
program.
it's
free
not
lunch and breakfast program.
It's not such a bad idea.
No.
Duh.
Don't hurt.
And then I'm sitting back and I'm saying to myself, for people that couldn't foreshadow what was going to happen, Carl, to your point, we got to stop being afraid.
Mm.
You know, people got out here and waiting for somebody else to go ahead and do it.
Mhm.
That's the thing. You want to wait for somebody else to go ahead and do it to see, you know, if it really works. You know, because ultimately I look at it this way. I'm saying if we're talking about the American dream, then let's just stop using that phrase because it's not, if you're going to say it's the American dream, then it should include all Americans, not just white Americans. But
Oh, yeah, but that's
I
the
mean,
blanket statement.
yeah, but you have to change it then if you're going to
Mhm.
include us.
That's the blanket statement.
It-
This
it-
is the
it's
land of opportunity for everyone that
it's
exists
multiple.
within it.
There are multiple American dreams.
Yeah.
American dreams.
There are multiple American dreams. Our American dream is not going to look like somebody else's.
Yeah.
Whether it be a Native American Anglo-Saxon white person, or whether it be an immigrant from Bangladesh or an immigrant from France or Ukraine,
Mm.
all of those American dreams are going to look different.
And you know, it's funny and ironic when you even say that statement. When you think about the American dream and you hear people relate their experience to it, how often do you hear African Americans use that in a statement referring to their experience in America? I've heard, of course, whites talk about it. Of course, hear immigrants talk about it. But do some looking and see how many African American or black people say, "Hey, I'm over here living the American dream." But you will see immigrants say, "I came over here living a dream," or "Me and my family been over here. We've been in the suburbs for decades. We live in the American dream." So
Well, when you find one,
that's homework.
let me know because I ain't came across
Yeah,
one.
it's just a
haven't either.
pop quiz question I want to throw out there.
Well, that's going to be one that's going to take some research.
Yeah,
I
but
Okay.
put some homework on them, Gene.
No. Family, listen, we want to let y'all know that we are totally against this thing called the American dream because, again, it's not for us. You know, we can have our place, but we've got to make it. I definitely believe that. And I think, you know, what Carl's had to say, what Brandon's had to say, what I've had to say, hopefully, you know, it struck a nerve at some point because if y'all out there and y'all black and y'all using this phrase, take a look in the mirror and really do some self-reflection because I guarantee you, your American dream ain't what everybody else's is. So remember, like the show, share it, subscribe to the YouTube channel, family, and as always, stay prayerful, stay patient, stay positive, stay peaceful. See you guys next time.